Psalms 40, verses 1 through 3. It's on page 878 in the Pew Bible for those who want to read along. Psalms 40, verses 1 through 3. Oh, it's right here. I waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me and heard me cry. He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet on a rock and gave me a firm place to stand. He put a new song in my mouth, a hymn of praise to our God. Many will see and fear and put their trust in the Lord. Now let's all listen to Peter.
There are many wonderful psalms that speak to us, that are able to reveal God's will and God's plan for our life, and it's not always in good times. Many of the psalms are written through very difficult times, and we would say through very dark days. A lot of the psalms written by David, Psalm chapter 40. Today I want to begin in Psalm chapter 42, so if you're kind of right there, we'll look there in just a minute in Psalm 42. So I want to start by talking about this word called ang. Way back in the old days, a few hundred years ago, it was actually spelled A-N-G-H. And what ang is, it's pressure. Ang is a restriction. Ang is like a heavy load or a burden. Ang is a pain. Okay, so that's what ang is. And so from this word ang, we get different words, and you kind of wonder when you have that little thing on your fingernail and it starts peeling. In the wintertime, your hands are dry and you've washed them one too many times. You've not lotioned them up. Guys, you've been lotioning lately. So a little, and so what is that called? That's actually called a hangnail. And it's not really a hangnail. What it is really, literally, back in the day, it was an ang. It was a pain. It was some pressure. It's something going on underneath the skin, and so now it's causing me distress. And this is what ang is. Ang is pressure. And so there's other words that describe this. And so here's maybe just a few words. It's tightness, constriction, pain, pressure, or to squeeze. That's what ang is. So it's important that we understand the word ang, because we also get other words that come from this root. So one is anger. Anger is when I have this pressure, I have pain, I have something inside of me, and I just get frustrated, and so it kind of comes out in my actions and in my words. And this is what anger is. It comes from something inside. Anger is just not created out of the blue. It's something that's going on inside of your mind or inside of your heart or in your emotions, right? And then when you get anger or angry, this is when this ang comes out. Well, other words that we may be familiar with is angina. Well, that's kind of a constriction in the arteries around the heart. Not enough oxygen is getting to your heart. What do you feel like? People say, well, it's a really tightening in the chest. I feel like, there's an elephant sitting on top of me, and I'm having a hard time now breathing, or, this pain is really... So it's a signal, but it's ang is what it is. It's a pain, it's a constriction or a restriction, something going on inside, and you're starting to feel it on the outside. And so the next word is maybe a little bit more of what we're going to be talking about today, is when we have angst. Angst. So somebody has angst, that just means there's something inside and it's kind of irritating them, and it's kind of, it's beneath the skin, of course, but they're just kind of upset. They're frustrated, they're angry, maybe they're starting to feel a little, some other words may be discouraged or down. And so from angst, we also get a word called anguish. Okay, so these are kind of more older words: angst, anguish. I feel really anguished in my soul. Now, that's a biblical word. If you read sometimes in the Old Testament especially, people say they have anguish in their heart. But these are from where we get the words like anxious. Now, we know what that is when I'm anxious, or this other word called anxiety. See, now we're getting closer to what we feel sometimes. We can say, well, I don't really have any of the hangnail stuff going on, and I don't know if I have a big problem with anger, but maybe I have a problem with anxiety. You ever thought about what the difference between anger and anxiety, because both of them come from the same place. Both of them, I think, are caused from the same root issue. It's when you have a lot of pressure and pain and things going on inside, even from the root word. So this is the difference. Anger is when the pain comes out. Right? I'm not even going to talk about anger today, But what I do want to talk about today is anxiety. See, anxiety is when all the pain is kept in, right? And when you're just I'm going to carry this by my, and nobody else is going to know. I'm not going to share this with anybody. I'm just going to carry it on my own. And what happens, it becomes too much of a heavy weight. It becomes too much for us to carry. And so we don't really want to talk to anybody else. So we go into what's called a depression, right? So there's many causes for that. We want to talk about that a little bit. But, this is kind of the pressure, the pain, the weight of the world and how I'm feeling and all the things going on in my mind and in my emotions. And, well, how am I going to deal with that? How am I going to overcome this? So this is where we get to Psalm chapter 42. Now, Psalm 42 it's a beautiful song we just sang. And, we read it. We think, oh, this is so great. I mean, this is from the choir master. Like, these are the guys that composed the songs when they used to sing, we would say today in the church, but back then it was in the synagogue or maybe in the temple. And so these are the singers of the songs, the song leaders, the song composers. I mean, these are our top guys. And, I mean, they're really into worshiping. I mean, this is almost their full-time job. So they know what it is to be connected with Jesus and to know the Lord and to have this relationship. And so this is beautiful. As the deer pants for streams of water. I mean, I just remember that tune. Actually, today almost brought a tear to my eye. Because that's all we read of the chapter. I just long. But what he's saying is, I long for the Lord. And it's not because I feel he's close. I long for the Lord because he seems so distant. You ever felt like that? You ever felt like, where are you now? Like I've been the choir director. I've been writing songs and hymns. I've been leading the people. And now his song is not so happy. Sung in a minor key. And people say, wow, song leading today wasn't so encouraging. I mean, I appreciate the songs Joe led because half of them I told him, I really want to sing these songs. Like, does Jesus care? Oh, yes, he cares. Really? Does he really care? Do you ever feel like, does he really care? You want an idea of what he felt like? It starts here on the screen. Let me read this first part again. As the deer pants for streams of water, so my soul pants for you, O God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When can I go and meet God? This is the next verse. But listen, my tears have been my food day and night. Does he sound like a happy guy to you? Right? I can't stop crying. I mean, I'm so burdened. I'm so downhearted. I've got this angst thing going on, this pain inside. I got pressure. What am I going to do with this? So by the way, throughout the rest of the chapter, he's going back and forth saying, this is how I feel, but this is how I should feel. So listen to what he says as he describes, this is reality, but this is my hope for the future. My tears have been my food day and night, while men say to me all day long, where is your God? These things I remember as I pour out my soul, how I used to go with the multitude, leading the procession to the house of God, with shouts of joy and thanksgiving among the festive throng. I have a little bit of a memory of what happened in those good old days. We were young. Life was good. Did not have a lot of worries. Did not have a lot of the trials of life. We used to go with our friends. We just used to worship God so freely. But I remember those days. It's not today. That's not today. Listen to what he asks. Why are you downcast, O my soul? Why so disturbed within me? That's a good question. By the way, when you start asking yourself questions, you know that you're really suffering. But let me just say this at the start. Let me start by telling you, I'm going to spend the rest of the time telling you all I know about what happens and the psychology and all the things behind this, okay? Time for the invitation song. Let's go. All right? I don't know anything. But I do want to put something on the screen, okay? Some reasons why people go through difficult times. Because sometimes when people, here's a couple things. If you've never been through a time of depression or discouragement, please, in the name of grace and mercy, do not try to help anybody that's going through it. Don't think you've got the answer, okay? Because here are some issues, and there's a lot of different issues, and maybe some of these issues sometimes are tied into each other. So really quickly, the description is downcast. I feel discouraged, and maybe these are in a little bit of an order. So first of all, discouraged, I'm feeling a little bit down. Downcast is kind of further, despondency, depression, despair. So these are kind of the spiraling downward, okay? So this next slide is when he asks this question, why are you downcast? Why are you disturbed? Again, here is a man, he knew the Bible. His job was to lead the worship. He probably prayed every day. This is his job and his ministry, and this is who he was. But what's he saying? And what he's saying is, well, here's the list I had mentioned earlier. The list is a lot of different reasons why this may happen, okay? So you can read the list, go through the list, okay? You know what's frustrating? The frustrating part when people are really discouraged is this. They can look at the list, and you know what they say? I don't know why I'm downcast. I don't know why I'm suffering. I don't know why I'm discouraged. I don't know why I'm depressed. Don't even know why I feel suicidal. People will actually say, I don't know why. What? You want to commit suicide and you don't even know why? I'm just in a dark hole. I'm in a place where I can't get back up. I am stuck, and I've been here for a long time. That's hard. It's hard to keep going down and down, because maybe if you had a quick answer, you can get a quick fix. But sometimes you don't even know what the answer is. I think that's what he's saying over and over again. He's saying, oh, so this chapter and the next chapter, why are you so discouraged? Why are you so down? Why are you discouraged? Why are you in this depression? Why is it going on for so? He's like, I don't even know. I have to keep asking, like, what's going on inside? So this is the challenge he's feeling, and this is kind of what he's going through, and this is something he has to work through. And so I think there's help in the Bible, because most of the characters in the Bible, and we studied this a few weeks ago in the Wednesday Bible class, had some form of discouragement or even depression. Now here's one that maybe you don't really consider very much. In Isaiah chapter 53 is a prophecy about the Messiah. It's hard reading it because it talks about the suffering he's going to go through and the pain and even his rejection by God. And so he's going to be the sacrifice for us. Isaiah chapter 53 is a very powerful scripture. But you know what it else says this about Jesus? Like, this is Jesus right here. He was despised and rejected by man. Now, what do you think this next part means? He was the life of the party. Told jokes all the time. He was pretty light. He was pretty easy-go-lucky. He was just, he's just... No, that's not what it says. What does it say? He was a man of sorrows. That doesn't say he got sorrowful once in a while. Sorrowful was kind of like, you look at him and say, what do you think of Jesus? Do you think he's like, the happy guy or the sorrowful guy? His disciples probably would have said, sorrowful. Right? Why? Well, because he had a lot of things going on. He was acquainted with grief. All I'm saying is, Jesus is not so far removed he doesn't understand what we go through, because he does. I'm just saying what it says. He was a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. Perhaps even to the point where men hide their faces. They don't even want to be around him. And we say, oh, that must have been when he was on the cross. Well, I agree. When he was on the cross, that was a sorrowful time, but apparently that was not the only time he suffered in sorrow. He was a man of sorrows. Why does it even say that? For people that say in their own mind, in their own hearts, I'm a man of sorrows. I'm a woman of sorrows. Sometimes I just feel overcome. I feel it's too much. The pain of life, the pain of loneliness, the pain of discouragement. A lot of things that happen, a lot of things that go on in life. And so sometimes it's hard. It's hard. Well, one part where he was sorrowful, we know that. This is before the crucifixion when he was praying in the garden. In Matthew 26:38, he took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him. He began, listen to what it says, he began to be sorrowful. He began to be troubled. So what did he say about his soul? Now, I'm just asking, do you ever feel like that? My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow. Like, that's not a little bit of sorrow. Again, we know what he's going to be going through, but don't tell me he doesn't understand. He's saying, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow. It's kind of like the psalmist who says, I feel like the waves. It's kind of like the picture here. This from the Psalms, that the waves are breaking over me. By the way, that's not somebody who's in the water treading. That's somebody who feels like, I'm going under. That's somebody who's saying, I'm going under, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get back up on top of the waves. I feel like I'm going under for the last time. He says to his disciples, would you stay? Would you pray with me? Would you watch with me? Would you try to encourage me through this? And they did have a struggle. They had a problem just trying to keep alert and keep with Jesus through this. But the interesting thing is, it wasn't they were being mean-spirited, and it wasn't just because they were really tired. It goes on to explain what was happening in Luke 22. An angel from heaven appeared to Jesus and strengthened him, and being in anguish, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat became like drops of blood falling to the ground. That's just how much inward pain and sorrow and suffering that was going. It was emotional. He was a fairly young guy. I know when I was 18, I looked at everybody that was 30 like they're super old, right? But now I'm just a little bit over 33, and Jesus, he's a young guy here. He didn't have a physical problem. He had an emotional problem right now. Right? Even his sweat became as drops of blood because of his anguish. In Lamentations chapter 3. Now again, Lamentations is written by Jeremiah, and if ever you want to find it in the Bible, if you want to follow along, you can do that, because we're going to read a little bit from Lamentations as well. Chapter 3 and verse 1. But let me start by reading from another song we love to sing. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. Great is your faithfulness. Isn't that a great song too? Oh, by the way, that's Lamentations chapter 3 and verse 22. That's not the way it starts. This is the way it starts. This is Jeremiah. He's our prophet. He's the man called by God. He's supposed to be encouraging people to repentance. I am a man who has seen affliction. By the rod of his wrath, he has driven me away and made me walk in darkness rather than light. Indeed, he has turned his hand against me again and again all day long. Sounds like he's suffering? Let me ask you. Sometimes we say, well, we just read the Bible and we just believe everything that it says. You know who Jeremiah is talking about? God. Could I read it again, maybe? God has driven me away. God has made me to walk in the darkness rather than the light. Indeed, God has turned his hand against me again and all day long. God has made my skin and my flesh grow old, and he's broken my bones. God has besieged me and surrounded me with bitterness and hardship. God has made me dwell in the darkness like those long dead. We can keep reading about how he is feeling. Read it sometime. Because you know what you may say? I feel like that sometimes. That's how I feel. Now, let me ask you a question. Did God do all that to him? Absolutely not. You know what he's saying? I'm so deep, I can't even think clearly. He's kind of accusing God of something God is not doing. And I'm just saying, when people are depressed, even Christians, and they say, I don't know where God is. I thought God loved me. God has deserted me. God has left me all alone. I mean, again, I've been trying to serve God and be close to God and love God and trust in God, but look what God has done to me. Oh, no. God's not done that. But you feel that way, don't you? You feel lonely? You feel isolated? You feel like you need to turn inward? You feel like I can't talk to anybody else about this? Well, especially like this. You know what the crazy thing is? I mean, God was in charge of giving us the Bible. If I was God, I would have left that part out. Hello? Why'd he put it in there? So that you and I can read it and say, oh boy, sometimes I feel like that. So, here's a question. Can you be honest with God? He was. Just saying how I feel, God. I feel like you've let me down. You weren't there for me. You failed on your promises. You didn't do what you said you were going to do. You've allowed me to suffer like this. You've put me through everything, the pain and the suffering. Have you ever felt like there's a wall? In verse 7, he walled me in so I cannot escape. He has weighed me down with chains. Even when I cry out for help, he shuts out my prayers. He has barred my way with blocks of stone, and he has made my paths crooked. God is like a bear lying in wait, like a lion in hiding, and he dragged me from the path, and he mangled me, and he left me without help. He drew his bow and made me the target of his arrows, and he pierced my heart with arrows from the quiver. I became the laughing stock of all the people, and they mocked me in song all day long. God's filled me with bitter herbs and sated me with gall. He's broken my teeth with gravel. He's trampled me to the dust. I've been deprived of peace. I've forgotten what prosperity is. So I say, my splendor is gone and all that I'd hoped for from the Lord. What would you say to this guy? I mean, what would you say if your preacher said all that to you? Or an elder? Well, what would you say to them? Sounds like you're going through a rough time, right? We need to talk about it. I mean, today we would probably say, maybe we even say, maybe you've got some medical issues, maybe, and I'm not saying there's a pill for everything. I'm not saying, when you feel down, you got to go get a pill. I'm not telling anybody to get off pills today, because sometimes they're needed. When it's, hormonal or chemical, all that stuff, they're needed. So don't ever hear me say, ever, and don't let anybody ever tell you that you just start reading the Bible and you pray more and get off all your junky pills. Right? Right? If you're in a church like that, leave it. I'm just telling you. So I hope our leaders don't start saying stuff like that, because it's nonsense, right? Everything's not fixed by a pill, but sometimes pills are necessary, okay? Is everybody okay with me on that? Everybody okay? But he's going through a hard time. He's been in a hard time for a long, you know what Jeremiah's called? They don't call him the weeping prophet because he cried for one day. Like, he cried every day, and that was his life. It was a pretty discouraging task that he had. So I guess what I'm saying is, all these things, you're not alone. You're not the first person to go through this. And sometimes we can say, well, it's just our society. There's a lot of pressure in our society. Even our teens are depressed. Our young adults, some of them are depressed. And we've got all these people that you seem to be so successful and they commit suicide. What's going on? Again, don't have all the answers, but I know that we're not the first generation to even suffer through this, even godly people. And so I want to talk a little bit, because I've tried to say there's a need. If it's not for yourself, it's got to be for somebody you know. And if you don't know somebody who's experiencing anguish and discouragement and depression and perhaps even suicidal talk, you probably don't have very many friends, because most of us know a few people in that category. To be honest, right? If we're honest. Or maybe your friends are just never honest with you to be able to share. Wouldn't it be nice? I mean, it's challenging when someone comes to you with that kind of information, but wouldn't it be nice if somebody actually trusted you enough to come and say, I need your help. I'm in a place, I'm stuck, I can't get out. Just the waves are crashing in, the weight's getting heavier, I'm getting dragged down. I need some help. And so this is that's kind of just the hook. Because now I want to talk about the seminar, like why we're doing this seminar, the value of this seminar, kind of why I'd like you to be at the seminar, if not for yourself, for somebody that you know or somebody that you love, okay? So we've been trying to promote the seminar to a lot of different churches. And I don't know, just kind of a commercial announcement. So one of the things we had planned to do is that if some of the local churches wanted some of our guys to go in the next couple weeks to do a lesson, and our guys didn't have a lesson that they could do, like this is it. So I hope you're taking notes. Just kidding, I'll provide the notes. So you know what I mean? It's kind of a precursor to what is this seminar all about? Why would we do a seminar? It's called Rising Above, trying to get above these waves of all the stuff that we're going through. How do we overcome that? How do we get through that? So I'm going to start with a video that's available. So this is one way that you can invite your friends and your family and all that stuff. This way you can only do it if you have a computer and you have at least one person in your email, or you've got Facebook that you can share something on Facebook. So it's a very easy way to invite people to the seminar. Maybe you could just, if you can invite them directly through email, you can write them a little special note saying, hey, we're doing this. I'm going to be there. I'd really love for you to come. Or, you can send it out to everybody on your list, sharing it on Facebook, just trying to let people know. So this is kind of an electronic invitation. We'll talk about why electronic invitations can be very powerful. So this is it. This is the video.
You call me out upon the waters, the great unknown, where feet may fail. And there I find you in the mystery, in ocean's deep, my faith will stand. Abounds in deepest waters, your sovereign hand will be my guide. Where feet may fail and fear surrounds me, you never fail, and you won't start now. I will call your name, keep my eyes on the way, resting in your embrace. I am yours, and you are mine.
So I'm just going to go through some stuff real quick. There's information, stuff you can take home, stuff you can invite in the hallway. There's an insert in the bulletin with a lot of this information, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time with it. But we spent many hours trying to put this together, meeting in groups and talking and discussing and trying to put the program to something that would be helpful and beneficial. encouraging and trying to build people up as we deal through some of these issues. So again, all the times and all that stuff are listed, so I'm not even going to go through them. I realize we're running out of time. So one thing about electronic invitations are, this is my plan, to make sure that this video gets into the hands of 50 churches of Christ. And there are 50 churches of Christ in the Metro Detroit area. And if each one of those churches would just forward it to 50 of their members, like if somebody gave that to me, I've got 50 people in my email, y'all, so I could send it all to you. So the idea would be then if those 50 people, that's you, could send it to 50 of your friends in your email accounts and all that stuff, the people that you know from the neighborhood and work and family members and things like that, we could invite 125,000 people in the next couple of weeks. And you know how much that would cost us, by the way? Nothing. That's not a bad deal, is it? I mean, if you were going to put out a mailing for that much, you'd probably spend at least $30,000 or $40,000. We can do it for free. And it's more effective because it's coming from you. It's not just a random piece of stuff that you get in the mail. It's actually an invitation that comes from a friend. So that's one of the things with the invitation and why we're really pushing for social media these days. So I don't want to make people feel like if you don't have social media that you're not able to invite, because we've got other ways to do that as well. One thing that we're doing this year is we're really focusing on the youth as well, because we know that youth deal with this. So it's called Youth Recharge, because some youth are really into recharging things, like especially their devices and stuff like that, and they know what it's like when the batteries get a little bit low, that you got to plug it back in and you got to get some more power. So that's what it's all about. We're going to have to talk about this another time, but we got a lot of stuff that's new this year, stuff that we're developing, putting together to make this pretty significant and maybe even life-changing. All right, so here's even a bigger need that we have right now, is we need some of you guys to help out as we try to serve people that are going through some of these struggles. So this is how you can help out. Because some people are going to come with families. We can let the kids go in the kids area, right? Or people are going to be coming in, it'd be nice to welcome them with a smile and with a greeting and, make them feel welcome. So if you want to help out, sign up in the lobby, because we have lots of room where people can sign up. So we need you to help out if you can. All right, so this is kind of what we're doing as the host church. We're being very welcoming and we're taking on the heart of a servant. So if you can help us, that would be great. If you can't help us, I will be doing all of this by myself. No, I can't, anyway. So we need help or else it's not going to look very good. Okay, so I really do appreciate that, though, very much. Okay, so again, this is kind of where we're really focusing on trying to reach out and make a difference. But listen, I got one more thing to say as we close. Jesus, you remember in Isaiah chapter 53? We read it. Jesus was the man of sorrows, and he was acquainted with grief. You know what that kind of says to me? He knows what we've been going through. He's been through it. Can I just tell you something else about Jesus? Because he's such a special friend. You know when you have no other friends? At least you feel that way. You're all alone. No one would really understand and no one would really care. Isaiah 53 also says this. We remember so much that he's carried our sin. That's true. But look what Isaiah says. He's carried our griefs. What does that mean? He's taken our griefs, our discouragement, our depression, our loneliness. He's taken that upon himself. You thought at the cross he only died for your sins so your sins can be forgiven and one day you can go to heaven. That's part of it. He went to the cross so you don't have to bear your sorrows anymore. You don't have to carry your griefs around anymore. He took them. This is what's called the gospel. It's the good news that Jesus has come to give us life. He's come to set us free. He's come to lift the burden. He's come to walk with us through disappointments and discouragements and sorrows. In life, sometimes things don't work out as we'd planned or as we'd hoped. Things happen, situations, circumstances, people, friends, maybe the people we trusted in or something we expected and it just never worked out the way we had hoped. Jesus understands. Jesus just says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." If you want that rest, Jesus is going to give it. All right? So you don't need to walk down this aisle. Just take it from Jesus. Right? He knows. But if today you want to become a Christian and say, "I need that. I need freedom. I need rest. I need a new start. I need a new heart. I need a new mind. I need to be recharged. I need to get plugged in. I need something that I just don't have it." If you want to accept Christ in your life, not just to give you eternal life someplace and sometime later on, and that's there, but he can give you life right now. If you want to be baptized into Christ today and surrender your life to him, we'll stand, we'll sing this song, let us know how we can be a blessing to you.